They showed up like they owned the place: trucks, folding chairs, a woman in a blazer holding a clipboard like it was a crown, and the first thing she said to me was, "You can't block the lane. This is community property." I remember laughing, because the lane runs under my grandfather's map, and his name is still stamped on the deed, and I'd grown up believing a piece of paper could hold back more than a lot line. That laugh died fast when she stepped forward and put her palms on my gate as if she had a right to push it open. "My name's Ethan Hale. This cabin, the one with the chipped porch swing and the rusted iron gate that squeaks when you push it, has been in my family since my granddad hammered the first nail into the posts in 1962. It's a simple place, no HOA dues, no neighborhood newsletters stapled to mailboxes. It sits where the county road narrows into trees and silence, and for years people respected that line of trees as much as they respected my grandma's anniversary pie. Then the community decided my private warehouse of memories would be perfect for their fundraiser, and that's how a Wednesday afternoon turned into the kind of story you tell at Thanksgiving, so people gasp and pass the rolls twice. It started with Loretta Vance, the HOA president from the development down the ridge. She's the sort who treats bylaws like scripture and smiles like a brand. I'd seen her at community meetings, pearled and precise, but never this up close. She'd brought half the board and 2 caterers and a bright pop-up tent. She said they had a permit. She said, firmly, "We have the county's blessing." I said, even more firmly, "You need my permission to use my land." She handed me a photocopy of a stamped form and told me to be reasonable. Here's the thing about being reasonable. Once your back's against a gate that used to belong to your grandfather, reasonable looks an awful lot like giving in. I unlatched the gate and walked them through the yard, slow, like I was offering a tour. Show them the holly tree, the old shed with the spider webs, the place where my father buried a time capsule and swore no one would ever dig it up. I put the deed on top of the picnic table. It's the kind of paper that folds in your hands just right, the county seal still crisp. Loretta skimmed it once, her lipstick a small, deliberate smile, then folded her arms as if folding the deed would fold the world to her favor. "You don't understand the liability," she said. "If someone gets hurt, if an ambulance can't get through," she used all the right words. She expected me to flinch. I didn't. I only pointed to a faded metal sign on the post that said, "Private property, no public events," and to the deed that named Hale Family Trust, Parcel 7B. The assistant shrank back, her phone already recording. That record would be important later. So would the way a truck's tailgate glinted in the sun like a menacing eye. Then her husband, Gavin, decided to make the story his. He walked up swinging his temper like a tire iron, voice loud, face red. "You don't get to show us paper and tell us what to do," he barked. Words became a shove. I don't remember the moment he touched me. Maybe because the sound of wood splitting in a bonfire is the same as the sound of something in you snapping. I felt the gate press into my ribs, felt his knuckles jar an old bruise, and then I felt the cameras, not just phones, mind you, but neighbors' dash cams, a deputy's body cam, catch the whole thing in a frame of awful slow motion. Deputy Ray Nolan pulled up before the punch finished. He's the kind of man who reads more maps than people, and his face softened when I handed him the deed. He ran a parcel search on his tablet, the little spinning wheel like a tiny heart. His voice cut the heat. "This property is taxed to the Hale Family Trust. There's no county permit for a public event." The crowd shifted curiosity to shame like a tide. Loretta's smile thinned. Gavin tried to talk over the deputy and then landed a punch that looked worse on video than it probably felt in the moment. He got cuffed. The caterers packed up in a flurry of napkins and disgust. Some of the neighbors who'd been filming whispered apologies as if their phones had turned them into accomplices. After the ambulance and the statement, after Maya Ortiz, my neighbor and a nurse, taped up my swollen jaw and took photos so precise they could be used in court, the fight changed from immediate to methodical. I did what Granddad would have done. I collected proof. I sat at the kitchen table with a binder and labeled every page. Deed, county amendment, photo of the tent, dashcam timestamps, the deputy's report, the nurse's notes, screenshots of the HOA's newsletters where Loretta had hinted at expansion plans. Evidence, it turns out, is a kind of art. You lay it out, and suddenly the whole picture makes a dark kind of sense. There was an anonymous email that came next, subject line, "Minutes." It had scanned pages of the HOA meetings, directives, opinions, and a lawyer's memo that said Loretta knew the risks but shrugged them off, saying, and I quote, "This community needs control, and control costs conflict." That line, when it sits on paper, stops being abstract. It's the beat where motive becomes visible. People don't throw their weight around for no reason. Sometimes it's about power, sometimes it's petty revenge, sometimes it's about the way a new development makes old money feel endangered. In Loretta's case, I think it was all of the above. A woman who'd learned authority tastes like victory and couldn't refuse a slice. Ava Singh, the sharp, twin sister of Logic attorney I called on a friend's recommendation, wrote a letter that smelled of calm menace. She sent it to the HOA and to Loretta personally. The assault, the illegal event plans, the forged documents. She attached the binder. Letters like that are surgical. They cut where they need to. The board convened in a chatter of defensive emails and closed-door meetings. Minutes were produced, reproduced, then scrubbed. Loretta began to lose her footing. 3 board members who'd nodded along in public suddenly remembered other obligations. Power is an echo. When the room's quiet, the echo fades. There was a last meeting, the kind where people shuffle papers like cards in a game they no longer want to play. Loretta defended herself like a general, pleading necessity. Gavin watched from the doorway with a bruise swelling across his cheek where a deputy's admonition had landed. The board voted, but the vote was less a verdict than the sound of a community choosing which side of an old line it wanted to live on. They stripped Loretta of her authority. They issued a retraction in the newsletter, the words oddly small compared to the damage. There was a settlement funds to cover my damages, a formal covenant filed that spelled out my property's use, a restraining order against Gavin. The official machinery of accountability moved with the deliberate slowness of winter, but it moved. I'd be lying if I said everything felt like justice the day the deed was laminated and bolted to my gate. Justice is rarely neat. The laminated paper looked good against cedar, but the cost, the burned nights, the calls, the way my neighbors' faces had split between curiosity and courage didn't wrap neatly. There was a quiet taste to it, like black coffee when you wanted sugar. I felt relieved, sure, but also different. There's a fatigue that comes when you realize the fight is never only about you. It's about the way a town decides who gets to be loud and who has to be quiet. I keep that deed where everyone can see it now. People pull in and glance, some with the new kind of respect that comes from seeing lines honored, others with a look like they're recalibrating how to treat a property owner who will stand his ground. The porch swing still sags the same way, the iron gate still squeaks. I water the holly every spring, and I answer the occasional call from a reporter who wants the spicy version of the story. I give them the truth, but not the anger. There's no pleasure in replaying someone else's cruelty, only a responsibility to say, plainly, what happened. If there's a lesson here, and I don't like the word, because everyone treats lessons like checkboxes, it's this. You don't protect a legacy with bravado. You protect it with records, witnesses, and the stubborn habit of being present. My granddad taught me that. Keep your receipts, mind your boundaries, and don't let someone else's sense of entitlement outsize your capacity to show proof. That's not heroic. It's just practical. It's the sort of quiet grit that wins grudgingly and keeps your porch light on. So when someone asks me now if I'm glad it ended the way it did, I'll tell them this yes, because the gate stays shut and my family's land stays private. But no, because community wounds take longer to heal than legal papers. I still see Loretta's smile sometimes when I'm out getting mail, and I know she'll find other ways to flex. Maybe she'll learn, maybe she won't. That uncertainty is part of the price of being human. If you sat through this whole thing, I want to know what you think. Was I right to stand my ground? Or should I have found a quieter path? Do you think people in positions like Loretta's deserve public exposure? Or do we risk cruelty by pulling back the curtain? Drop a comment below with your take. Share a story if you've been through anything like this. And if this stirred anything in you, anger, relief, curiosity, hit that like button so we know there's a crowd who cares about community lines and what happens when they're crossed.